Today's episode, we have James Treadway. He's the founder of Growthwise, and he's created the program Social Skills for Life. This is one of the best podcast episodes I've ever had. Just one of the most amazing conversations. James goes very deep into how you can start a conversation with anybody and how you can actually build social skills that's going to allow you to really connect with anybody at any time. And we also just go really deep into what deeper healing looks like so that you can actually create deeper confidence and start experiencing more love, more connection, more joy. Such an amazing episode. Really excited to share it with you guys today. All right, enjoy the episode.
James, welcome to the podcast. Yeah, very grateful to have you on. And yeah, why don't I just start off by allowing you to introduce yourself and how you got to this point in your life?
Okay. Um, Thank you for having me. Um, I I would say that from about age 12, no, 11 to 37, and I'm 39 now. Um, I struggled pretty heavily with social anxiety and insecurity, and really didn't feel like I knew what to say in conversation. And I would get more and more uptight as I'd be talking to people. And not sure what to say, afraid they would judge me. Um, Afraid I didn't fit in, afraid people would think I was weird.
Yeah.
And I would get more and more uptight. Um, and then I would act weird. And I knew it, and I knew they knew it, and they knew it. And then I would walk away from the conversation feeling like I had failed the conversation.
Mm.
And I just didn't know how to stop doing that. And it's supposed to be easy, conversing with people, and it really, really was not. And I was just in a stew of thinking and worrying about myself.
Mhm.
Um, and then when I was 28, I was living in London at the time, and I went to a social anxiety support group from
Mm.
meetup.com. And
Mm.
it was like one of the first times I felt like I could really relax and be myself,
Mm.
but only with people who were as socially crippled, and awkward, and anxious as I was.
Mhm.
And I think as I got into my 30s, I started to make some progress on it. I went to lots of Tony Robbins seminars. Um, and I would say through my 20s and 30s, I've been going to as many workshops and retreats and seminars as I possibly can. I probably spent like $1.5 million on that.
Wow.
Basically everything I earned. And what I usually say is I was like someone with their head on fire is looking for water. Like I was looking for answers to these questions of why do I
Mhm.
feel so anxious and insecure and depressed in
Yeah.
my relationships. Um, and then in the last couple of years, things like truly, truly, truly started to crystallize and click. And so when people meet me now, they would like never guess. Um, and really just have a lot of fun being able to connect with basically anyone in a really flowing,
Yeah.
genuine way.
Beautiful.
And yeah, so people who meet me now often don't believe I have this history, but when I imagine putting posts on Instagram and Facebook about teaching class, or on LinkedIn, about teaching class on social skills, and I imagine people from high school or college seeing that I teach a class on social skills now, it's like I can just imagine them laughing at themselves, being like,
Mm.
"This guy is teaching a class on
Mhm.
social skills? Like you have the wrong guy." Um, So yeah, it feels so exciting and light, and I feel so proud to be on the other side of someone's struggle and pain around all that.
Beautiful. I imagine, because yeah, I could definitely relate to that story. I imagine looking back. I mean, to me, I see it as kind of one of my as a gift, having to have those struggle and to now go through it. And now it seems like
Mhm.
you've taken that gift and you've turned it into more of your purpose with growth-wise.
Yeah,
Can you talk
yeah,
about
for sure.
how that came about?
Yeah. So from age 28 to 38, I did SAT tutoring, started and ran a tutoring company, um, and was basically taking all the earnings that I made in tutoring and spending it on seminars and retreats and workshops so I could figure out my
Mm.
personal issues. And then when I finally
Mm.
really started to. I started to share the social skills with my SAT students, and they loved it.
Mm,
And it was particularly the skill of making others feel seen and heard.
mm,
And that theme kept coming back to me in different parts of my life, that you have to make the other person feel seen and heard. Um,
mm,
and I got pretty good at it. I studied Chris Voss a lot, the FBI
mm.
hostage negotiator.
Yep.
You familiar with him?
Yep.
Um, Started practicing his stuff a lot. I had a couple X's where we tried to use Imago couples dialogue. You familiar with that?
No.
It's a really beautiful couples dialogue process, looking at the emotional triggers you both have from your childhoods, and how can you have a really conscious, loving conversation about triggers as they're coming up in the present. And
Mm,
again, it's about making the other person feel seen and heard. Um, and then my last ex, I got together with her 4 years ago. We were together 2.5 years, but she has 2 kids. And so all of a sudden I was stepdad,
mm,
and I wasn't a very good parent at first. And I would get angry, and yeah, I'd do stuff my parents would do that I didn't like. Um, and so I actually asked a friend of mine from the Tony Robbins Platinum Partners group, who's an amazing dad. And I asked him one day, I was like, Joseph, do you give your kids timeouts? Because I was giving, my stepkids timeouts all the time.
mm,
And he laughed at me for like 5 minutes. And it was as if I had said, like, Joseph, do you hate your kids?
mhm, mhm, mhm,
And I was just like, man, I'm doing something really wrong. So I geek out on all the best parenting books I could find. And again, it comes
mm,
back to this theme. You have to make your kids feel seen and heard.
mm,
So over and over, I'm getting drilled with this lesson, and I'm getting better and better socially as I get better at making others feel seen and heard. And it gets me to stop thinking about and worrying about myself all the time, which is what I used to do. And then
mm,
just get curious, what's it like to be this other person? How can I show them I see them and I
mm.
hear them?
Yeah.
And once I started to do that, like, my interactions and conversations just really started to flow and be genuine and fun and insightful and funny, and all the best adjectives that you would
Yep.
want an interaction to be. Um, so then I decided, enough SAT tutoring. I'm going all in. I'm going to teach a class on social skills. I really just want to teach people how to make others feel seen and heard. And then
Mm,
it just kept evolving and evolving. Um, and I hired one of my tutors to be the CEO of the tutoring company.
mm,
So he took over that role from me, so I can really just focus on, developing the social skills class. And I'll say one other thing. The other thing that's emerged is now coaching parents on how to make their teenager feel seen and heard.
mm,
And that is like just catching traction and unfolding really organically and beautifully. And then the impact I'm hearing from them in terms of the vibe in the home and how much it's changing the dynamic between them and their teenager. That's been like really beautiful
mm.
surprise the last several months. So yeah, that's
Beautiful.
some of the evolution.
Amazing. And it sounds like, yeah, one of the core aspects of how you help yourself, but help others is helping others feel seen and heard. And can you talk a bit why is that so important, and why is that so impactful with somebody struggling with social skills or social anxiety?
Yeah. So for most of my social skills students, the thing that usually gets them nodding their heads in like resonance is that notion of, like, you're in a conversation, you don't know what to say, you're afraid of what they might think about you, you're not sure if you fit in, you're not sure if you're good enough. You think you're afraid, if you do this, they'll judge you that way. If you do the other thing, they'll judge you another way. And all of that, when you hear it, is really just thinking and worrying about yourself.
Yep.
And so it makes sense to anyone. It's not that fun to hang around someone who's just thinking and worrying about themselves.
Mm,
And so
mhm,
socializing is a team sport. It's an interactive game. So when you put your attention on the other person and just start to get curious, what's it like to be them? Um, and show them that you see what it's like to be them. It causes people to feel really safe, and
mm,
it causes them to relax. And then their real self comes out. And then you just have two real selves that are just naturally ping-ponging in flow.
mm,
And so it's just like making the other one feel seen. It just kind of unlocks the door to all this like social uptightness and stuckness. And
Mm,
then really beautiful flow starts to show up, and you don't even have to think about the interaction anymore. And it just goes really
mm.
beautifully.
Yeah. So by making the other person feel seen, they
Hmm.
kind of relax. And then them by them relaxing and showing themselves, that makes me, the person doing that, also feel more relaxed.
Totally. And so I'll teach a couple go-to tools for how to make the other person feel seen. So once you kind of have those memorized and you've gone out into your life and tried them day to day over and over, um, you feel like going into any conversation, like you don't no more do you have that fear of like, oh God, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. You feel like you know what to do. So it's like very specific ways to make someone else feel seen and heard. Should I go through some of those?
Yeah, that would be great. Let's jump into that.
Okay. Okay. So a couple of great ones from Chris Voss, FBI hostage negotiator, are the mirrors, where you just say 1 to 3 words back to the other person that they just said. You can do it while they're talking, kind of echo them as like, I call it like backup rapper emphasis. It's like
Hmm.
when the rapper's on stage and he's got his posse and it's like they like say certain lyrics, they all like
Hmm.
emphasize certain lyrics. It's almost
Yeah.
like that.
Mm.
Um,
So you say the specific word that they said.
1 to 3 words that they said. Yeah, like the
Okay.
most important ones or the last 3 words.
Mm.
Um, have you gotten to read Voss's book yet?
I read what is it, Never Split the Difference? I think I read like half of it.
Exactly.
I never
Yeah.
finished it.
Yeah, yeah. So that for some reason, I was like compelled long before I read a social skills class, I was compelled to make like a 200-page study guide out of that book. I don't
Wow.
even know, like I didn't even know why. I was just like, I have to do this. Now it makes sense. Because I teach it. That's, that was like my Bible for a while. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, saying 1 to 3 words back to the other person. So that's a mirror. Um, so often in conversation when you don't know what to say, just say the last 1 to 3 words that they just said back to them.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so like if you were to do it to me right now, you go, say back to them. And so a little question mark right at the end, or maybe like a yeah, you put it like that. I will immediately start telling you more about it. I'll get all excited and
Mm.
tell you and open up and tell you even more.
Yeah.
And you could be
Yeah.
like, tell you even more? And then I'll keep like it works like a charm. It's bizarre.
Yeah. I think I have been doing that without really, I don't think I consciously was thinking about doing it, but I
Right.
notice when I do that,
Yeah.
um, it's like inviting the other person to continue talking about it and to talk in more deeper depth about it.
So I'll give you a couple of really good stories with that. My okay, so my ex, she has a son and a daughter. Son is almost 6, daughter's 13. And like I said, I didn't feel like a very good parent at first, and in getting to know them. And then I geek out on all these books. One of them's How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. There's a whole vein of books along those lines. They were so good. And so I started practicing it like in the car. And so Aiden, he's now 6. He would talk about Transformers. And I don't know anything about Transformers, don't care about Transformers. And I would just use mirrors back to him. And so he'd say something about Optimus Prime, and I'd be like, "Oh, Optimus Prime?" He'd be like, "Yeah, blah 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 blah."
Mhm.
And he'd like, and I'd be like, "Oh, Bumblebee is strong." And he'd be like, "Yeah," and he'd get all excited. And I'm just mini mirroring him back. We'd have a 40-minute conversation about Transformers. And me, before I knew this technique, I wouldn't have known what to say. I probably would have said something like, "Cool," to his first comment,
Yeah.
pause, change the topic, and I would have missed this whole world that he would have been so excited to tell me about. And
Mm.
um, I'm not together with mom anymore, but I live 10 minutes down the road. I help her raise him. He calls me daddy. Like, I'll be a father figure to him for life. Uh, I swear we wouldn't have that without mirrors
Yeah.
and those conversations in the car. And his sister, she's 13. All she wants to talk about is cute boys at school. And it's the same thing. Not my go-to topic, but just with these mirrors, I can kind of volley back. And she gets in the car, she wants to tell me everything. And I'll tell people, I've got 13-year-old daughter figure. She's not my biological daughter, but basically a daughter to me. And I'll tell people, yeah, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and they'll say, oh God, teenagers are so hard. And I'm just like, no, like it's just magic. Like I have such a good vibe and connection with her. Um, I feel like we both get so much from it. And I swear so much of this is on the back of mirrors
Mm.
that,
Yeah.
you know, um, so yeah,
Sounds
that's,
like marrying is really just kind of just deep listening and inviting the other person to continue sharing, and you're kind of showing that you are interested in what they're saying.
yeah, it's more than deep listening. It is because, I always, when I teach this, I always tell this story too. So I remember one time I was in the car with their mom and she was complaining about work and I was really listening, deeply listening, 30, 40 minutes. And at the end, she starts saying, "You're not hearing me."
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, in my head, I'm like, all I've been doing is sitting here hearing you.
Yeah.
And so how I make sense of it is I wasn't acknowledging her.
Hmm.
So what I
Okay.
what I teach is the skill of acknowledgement. I need to send her a signal that shows I'm hearing her. It's not enough just to listen. She needs to
Yeah.
feel listened to. So I need to send her a signal that makes her feel listened to. And
Mm.
me just being
Yeah.
quiet and paying attention is often not enough for people. Because how do they know where your
Yeah.
mind really is? Yeah.
Yeah. You want to give like a clear signal.
Yeah, exactly. So one of three words that they just said, that's a clear signal,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Very interesting. What other so yeah, I think the saying 1 to 3 words or the most important words, yeah, super
Hmm.
practical. What
Yeah.
other tips would you give for helping others feel seen and heard?
I like Voss has another one. He calls them labels.
Hmm.
In my class I call them summaries. And it's just to if the person feels strongly about what they're saying, I
Hmm.
call it 7 out of 10 or more. 7 out of 10 angry, 8 out of 10 peaceful, 9 out of 10 happy. Doesn't matter. If they feel it strongly, whatever the emotion is, if you answer them with a summary, very short, just like summarize the gist of what they said, they're gonna love it.
Mm.
And this used to feel weird to me because I thought anything I said in a conversation, I have to say something new.
Mm.
And if you just, it's like summarizing, like what's the point of me saying back to them what the hell they just said? What is that? It's going to make them feel seen and heard. It's going to guarantee
Yeah.
they feel seen and heard. And if they
Right.
feel so strongly about what they're saying, they really want to feel seen and heard.
Mm.
So
Yes.
really, yeah, so really good phrases for this are it sounds like and it seems like. And you
Mm.
actually did this literally probably 90 seconds ago. You said it to me. You're like, it sounds like blah, blah, blah. And I feel super seen and heard just by you saying that to me.
Mm.
Right. So that's another one, the mirrors and just summarizing the gist. Like you can go into almost any conversation. That's like two-thirds of the battle.
Yeah.
Um, the other third of the battle, I'm going to say, is ask them questions that let them talk about themselves.
Mm.
Yeah. And so studies will show that people will literally like forego opportunities to make money if they get to talk about themselves more.
Mm.
Which just speaks again to like how badly all of us are craving to feel seen and heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think yeah, being seen and heard is kind of the core component of connection, right?
Hmm.
Is to feel seen and heard. All right.
Yeah.
And with asking questions, do you tell people like to come up with questions beforehand that they're curious about, or sometimes, yeah, with people that even I talk to, they're not sure what questions to ask.
Okay. So, I kind of teach this in two parts. One is to start a conversation, just ask about or comment on something you have in common.
Mhm.
Um, and to continue a conversation, just ask them something that lets them talk about themselves. So I could start a conversation with you by mentioning Tony Robbins. I've dabbled in podcasting. Looks like you've taken it much further than I have. But I've had an interest in that. I could bring up growing up in Westchester. I could bring up our journeys with social anxiety, how we used to struggle that. Any of that we have in common. I could start a conversation by mentioning or asking about any of that, right?
Yeah.
And I could keep it going just by asking you anything that lets you talk more about yourself.
Right.
And then whatever you say, I'm going to answer you with mirrors and summaries.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
like that could open the door to an hour long, awesome conversation right there.
Hmm.
Right.
And so how about if you don't know the person at all, right? You just maybe meet them see someone at a cafe, someone sitting next
Yeah.
to you, whatever. Um, how
Same
would you,
principles.
yeah.
Same principles. So, yeah, I always wonder about this in terms of like, let's say you see someone attractive.
Hmm.
My suspicion, I haven't like full blown practiced it, but my suspicion is like perhaps the most authentic and effective pickup, as it's called, pick in the pickup world or whatever, would actually just be to make the person feel seen. And it could
Hmm.
just be like, God, what would it be? So you're at a cafe. Um, Anything commenting, let me, I shouldn't be stumbling as hard as I am, but I really think it could be anything. I'm trying to think of a good specific thing. Um, you could comment on whatever book they're reading, of course, right? You could
Hmm.
comment on their outfit if you like their outfit. Commenting on someone's outfit will always make them feel seen, of course.
Hmm.
Um, Even if it was just like getting coffee. And they're like, yeah, and they'd probably laugh because it'd be a funny comment, and then you could laugh about. But if you just kept saying things to them that made them feel seen and acknowledge the humor of the moment, I bet that would turn into a great conversation. And
Hmm.
Alex, I don't, have you ever heard of Go for No?
I think I've heard of that concept. Is that a book or?
It's a book. Yeah. Shortest little
Okay.
book ever. Absolutely life-changing for me. And
Mm.
in my social skills class, it has four parts. Part three is called Go for No. And the idea of Go for No is if you're not getting rejected or ignored or failing,
Mm.
you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Because when you go for what you want, some percentage of the time, like any sport, some percentage of the time you're going to miss.
Hmm.
Those are the times where you get rejected or ignored or fail. So what my students learn, and I definitely practice, is like when you get that little instinct, like, "Ooh, I want to talk to that person," you talk to them.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be perfect at all.
Yeah.
I when I first learned this, I was living in New York, and I said one part of my life where I'm going to practice is my love life. And so for the first time in my life, I would go up to women I thought were attractive on the street, and I would say hi, and I would say, what I found over time worked the best was just the simple truth. I'd say, hi, I thought you were cute. Or, maybe I thought you were cute. I wanted to say hi.
Yeah.
Or
Hmm.
I thought you were cute. I wanted to get to know you. And then I
Hmm.
read their response. And if they seemed open to it, then go ahead. But if they seem kind of shut down or closed, no worries.
Yeah.
I'm not here to try to
Totally.
manipulate you and whatever. That worked plenty well enough. And all of a sudden I had like more dates than I ever thought was possible. I was like,
Hmm.
oh my God,
Yeah.
this works.
Yeah. Just
Um,
going for
so
it.
Yeah, so go for no. And so this shocks me because I work so much with teenagers. Um, I work with adults on this stuff too, but I have lots of teenagers since I come from a tutoring background. So a lot of teenagers who I work with on this, and I'm amazed how much this is probably their favorite part of the class is go for no. And they'll be in situations where, truth be told, like they're afraid to ask their own friend if you want to go get lunch or do you want to come to the mall with me? Because if their friend
Hmm.
says no and then they don't quite know what it means, it's my friend not really like me, whatever, and then come
Hmm.
go for no, it's like, oh, no worries, I'm gonna ask my next friend. And they end up asking five friends by the end of it.
Hmm.
When before that they
Hmm.
used to be afraid to even ask one, and then they decide, oh, I'll just stay at home and scroll on my phone instead. And then they wonder why they're depressed and anxious at night.
Yeah.
So go for no is like a massive part of all this, I would say.
Yeah. I think going for no will, so if someone could actually take it into practice, yeah, it'll completely change their life. That's kind of how I started a lot of my journey was
With the exposure therapy.
about with the exposure therapy. It was about
Yeah.
because I've taken programs and stuff around confidence before, and a lot of
Hmm.
it was good for my mindset, but I didn't really make the changes of like behavior of like,
Hmm.
getting outside my comfort zone. And
Yeah.
then I think it was about 7 years ago, I created a meetup group in New York City called Rejection Therapy. You probably maybe have heard of Jia Zhang. He had a
Yeah.
TED
Yeah.
talk, yeah,
Yes.
about
Let's
where he
go
did
for now.
100 days of rejection. Yeah, exactly. Just
Yes.
purposely getting rejected and being it's really just being okay with getting rejected and having the no. And the more you can get comfortable with it, the more you're just willing to take opportunities, right? And just ask for what you
Totally.
want because you're okay
Yes.
with the no.
I
Yeah, it
wonder
was
if I saw
life-changing.
your group when I was in New York, because I was in New York at the same time,
Oh yeah.
7 years
Hmm.
ago. Yeah,
Good.
and it sounds like we were maybe so what were some of your experiences with exposure therapy and, allowing yourself to be rejected?
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, I would just ask, I had a handful of different challenges I would do. Some of them could be like, um, some of them weren't exactly focused on getting rejected. Some of them could just be like complimenting somebody,
Totally.
asking somebody, can you give me a compliment? And then some like weird challenges of like where just
Yeah.
the person's gonna look at you very funny and weird, where it's like,
Yeah.
going up to a stranger and be like, can I tie your shoes? There's all these like things where people are obviously most likely going to say no, or even asking
Yeah.
people like, how's your food? Can I try it? Talking to people you find attractive,
Yeah.
trying to get dates, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me, it helped me so much. When I started doing those kind of consistently, I saw the
Hmm.
biggest kind of spike in my growth and confidence. And that's why
Oh yeah.
a huge core of my program is really on getting people to take action and get comfortable with being rejected.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I really like just that 1% principle with that.
Hmm.
When my students hear about the no's I go for, I think they sounds like crazy. But I've been at it for 8 or 9 years by now. Um, but I just tell them it's like just play a little outside your comfort zone.
Yeah,
You don't have to be a
exactly.
psycho like me. And if when you kind of commit to making a 1% change, that
Hmm.
that door just starts to open and you get a little bit of a taste and you suddenly you just like you get a momentum with it and you're off and running and you don't need to go crazily far beyond what you're ready for, but do go at least 1% beyond what you're
Yeah,
used to, and that'll
exactly.
turn into beautiful stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, just gradual exposures. And yeah, to me, it's become so much fun, honestly. Like I enjoy doing these challenges now more and more
Yeah,
because it kind of turns into a game. That's
totally.
actually where I'm probably going to shift a lot of my energy soon. Is I
Really.
have a friend that's going to join me to make content in May,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
because I used to make this content, but I didn't like the whole editing and videography side, so I was kind of waiting for that ideal
Yeah.
person to help me with that. So yeah, he's going to
Ooh.
join me in May, and we're just going to do bunch of different challenges. And for me, that just feels like play. And if I can also
Yeah.
show other people how to do challenges and inspire people, while also still having the program where people can do that within a community
Yeah.
setting, that's kind of my ideal
I-
scenario.
I'm getting goosebumps as you describe that. That is going to be awesome. I have a feeling.
Yeah, it'll be like I don't know if you follow Yes Theory,
I
but it'll
think I forgot
be
it. Tell me.
they travel around the world and do all these kind of big challenges. Like they were in China recently, and the challenge was to find a stranger on the street and ask them if they can host a party at their house.
Hmm.
So they'll find a stranger, and eventually they found somebody that was willing to host a party at their own house.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
I did one a couple of months ago, and I was in Singapore for just for a visa run because my visa in Bali was expiring, so I had to leave for at least a day. So I
Mm.
thought I could just tie in a challenge with it. So my challenge
Yeah.
was I was going to find a stranger and ask him if I could sleep at his house. And if nobody was going to let me, the ch part of the challenge was I have to sleep on the street. So
Nice.
as soon as I
Beautiful.
got out of the airport, I approached probably like I don't know. In the beginning, it was hard, right? In the beginning, like it took me a while to approach somebody, like a couple of minutes, like overthinking it. But
Yeah.
eventually, after dozens and dozens of approaches, I just became, bolder and bolder and bolder, and just started going right up to people, started going right up
Right.
to groups. Eventually, I had
Yeah.
like a sign. I wrote it on a sign that I'm doing this challenge, and I'm just like, "Hey, read my sign." And eventually, I found someone, and right at the literally at the very end, when I was right about to give up, I found
Wow.
someone and. He convinced his parent. He was living with his parents, and he convinced his parents to let me stay over.
Oh
And it's
my
just a
God.
beautiful roller coaster of a
Yes.
day. And I noticed the day after, after the challenge was done, like I was just so open. Like I was just talking
Yes.
to everybody, just approaching people just for fun because I just,
Yeah.
because I did it so many times.
So there's so much I could say about this. I mean, I remember being in New York, and I remember I saw this girl in this cafe, and she just like caught my eye for a second, and I'm super just like without even thinking had already said hi to her. And she turned out not to be a romantic interest. She just turned out to be a amazing friend who ended up tutoring for my company,
Wow.
she was a phenomenal tutor. And then through her friend network, she would bring in like the most amazing tutors to our company. Um, if I go back to New York, I would, or wherever she is, I will always like make a point to see her. It's amazing every time I see her. But honestly, that probably turned into like she's probably responsible for, God knows, 50, 70, 80 grand that ended up coming into
Mm,
the company just through all the stuff she ended up doing for our tutoring company.
wow.
And so that was all from a go for no, just from the start. And then these go for no's start leading to more go for no's.
Yeah. Totally.
And it just compounds and compounds and compounds.
Yeah.
So I call it the go for no glow, which it sounds like is what you had that, the next day in Singapore. It's like
Hmm.
ironically, by just facing all this rejection fear, I can see it like so visibly clear in my students how relaxed they seem. And they're kind of excited about their lives because it's like you go for what you want. Start finding out life has a lot more yeses waiting for you than you realized. And even when you get your butt kicked, it's fine. And
Yep.
you learn so much from it. And it goes in the past so fast. So it was like they're noticeably more relaxed, yet excited to be themselves. That is the go for no glow.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
definitely a glow and just this momentum that comes from doing it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And how do you like help people? So with the Go for No framework, like, so how would you, if somebody want to do that, like how do they start? Do you give them like kind of challenges or exercises to do, or they come up with it themselves, or how does it work?
I take them through the lesson, tell my stories. I've got all these slides and different quotes. I've sort of curated this whole lesson around it. And then I'll give them homework to like, you know, note three, make sure to get rejected this week. So that means you have to keep going for it until it happens. And then I'll just keep bringing it up week by week and like asking them more and about where they're going for no, how did it play out, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll get pretty rooted. The concept definitely sticks with them.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Okay. Kind of becomes like a mindset.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah,
Cool. And I think I remember when I checked your site, you had kind of four core parts to your to the social skills for life program. So I think the
yeah,
first one was helping people feel seen and
mm,
heard,
yeah,
and then go for no is another part of that.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And then what are the other two parts?
yeah. So after making them feel seen and heard, the second one is to know your nervous system. So like, would you be able to explain the difference between your sympathetic and parasympathetic responses?
I've heard of the concept, and I watched your video, so now I can.
Um, thanks for watching. So, those words always mess me up for years because they sound really similar as it is. But basically, your sympathetic nervous system response is your stress response. So your heart beats quicker, your breath gets shallow.
Yeah.
And when you're stressed and anxious, the voice in your head becomes critical, fearful, and mean.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have times in your life you can remember where like that critical, fearful, mean voice was just like the one that was always talking?
Oh, totally. Yeah, especially
Yeah.
early on in my journey.
Yeah. And we just believed what it said.
Yep.
And what I usually say is my unscientific fact or statistic is that 99% of what that voice says is not true.
Yeah.
So,
Catastrophizing.
oh yeah, total catastrophizing. So if you're hearing the critical, fearful, mean voice going, most people are going around just believing it. And
Yeah.
society as it is priming you to be in a stressed, sympathetic nervous system response all the time.
Mm.
Whether it's, fear porn in the news or, just all the general alienation across so many aspects of society, people are stressed.
Yep.
Um, so that voice is reigning and
It's like a
they're believing it.
survival voice, seems like.
Yeah. Yeah, total survival. Okay, so your parasympathetic nervous system response, your heartbeat slows down, um, your breath gets deeper and slower, you start your podcast with a meditation so that we can arrive in a parasympathetic place, right?
Mhm.
And things just flow from that place.
You're
It
right.
just feels good and you're more sensitized to life. All the goodies happen in parasympathetic. So I could never remember this because sympathetic sounded like it should be the calm and grounded one. It's not.
Yeah.
Sympathetic is stressed. Parasympathetic parachute. So
Right.
think of a parachute. Have you flown in a parachute before?
Never.
You're by the end of this year, I suspect your Tony Robbins adventures will have had you do that. Um,
Yeah.
so I did it many times in that context. And so when the parachute comes out, it's like it catches you from your fall, and you're just kind of gliding really beautifully and calmly through the sky, and you have this like
Mm,
zoomed out perspective over the whole landscape. It's beautiful. When you're in parasympathetic, you kind of know not to take anything too serious, to make it too big.
mm,
Everything is kind of zoomed out and it's beautiful. Um, and so knowing that any moment of the day you're primarily in one state or the other allows you to start recognizing when you're slipping into sympathetic and stressed
mm,
and to notice that critical, fearful, mean voice and don't bother wasting any time believing it. Your first move has to be to move yourself back to parasympathetic.
mm.
So
Yeah.
you could do that, for example, by breathing as lightly and slowly through your nose for a minute. I'm almost tempted to have us do it right now. Um, but like you don't have the listener do it with us. But that you do that and you'll feel these subtle sensations of calm come through your whole body. We'll immediately be talking slower and be more
Mm,
grounded.
yeah.
Um, And it's just your way, way better self in parasympathetic. So before you go up and talk to that person you have a crush on, or give a presentation, or before, the recital performance, or you go play a sport, whatever it is, the high pressure thing, you
Yeah.
want to move yourself into parasympathetic, whether it's breathing as lightly and slowly through your nose as you can, or in doing that for some period of time. Another way to move yourself into parasympathetic is just to do whatever you're doing more slowly, like
Mm,
on purpose. And that will already shift your whole nervous system. And then your better self comes out. And so the masters in like any arena, I see it over and over, they have some intuitive understanding of this. The masters know to take a pause and then make a conscious choice. And basically what they're doing is going from the stressed and sympathetic track that they were on and then changing over tracks to the parasympathetic track. And that's why they're masters, because when you're in parasympathetic, your best self shows up. So they are accessing their best self over and over. That's why they're masters.
right.
It's like athletes, stand-up comedians, race car drivers, anything.
Mhm.
People in finance, they practice this. I notice it over and over.
Yeah.
So does that paint the picture?
Yeah. So being able to get out of that, stress response. And sounds like what
Yeah.
happens also when you're doing this breathing, you're doing intentional slow breathing or doing things
Hmm.
slowly, you're also, I imagine, bringing more presence into what you're doing. Whereas with the sympathetic, you're probably just like ruminating. You're kind of stuck on these, thoughts. You're kind of going down the spiral, but then you kind of, take yourself out of it. You kind of zoom out and just see it. And then you bring yourself back to a present state of just, feeling your breath, doing things slowly. And yeah, presence,
Yeah.
naturally will calm you down.
Totally. It's like don't even try to speak or act from sympathetic. You will screw things up. You will be hurtful in how you impact people around you. Um, and what was the thing I was just gonna say? Let's say with go for no. Let's say ask the person you have a crush on, ask them out, let's say, and let's say they say no, and you feel so rejected. If you go into a sympathetic response, the critical, fearful, mean voice is just going to tear you to pieces and
Mm,
say, you're unattractive, you're not
yeah.
good enough, you should never do that, never do it again, blah, blah, blah. And so you actually have to be able to catch that after you take a social risk, let's say.
Yeah.
Move your nervous system into parasympathetic first, now check in around it. And pretty quick, it's much easier then to kind of realize, that one didn't go my way. Maybe I could have done this or that better, but I'll be able to do it for next time, and they're probably not my person anyway.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's like don't even try to logic with anybody if they're in sympathetic, because
Right.
until they move their nervous system to parasympathetic, they can't even hear you.
All right.
We make that mistake all the time. We try to argue with people when they're in sympathetic. It's never going to work.
Mm.
And maybe at the risk of connecting too many dots here, the reason making people feel seen and heard is so important. It's because it brings out their parasympathetic self.
Mm. They
And
kind
it
of
puts
calm
you
down.
into parasympathetic too, right? So now there's all this safety and trust. That's where flow lives in
Hmm.
parasympathetic.
Yeah.
And in sympathetic, kind of like you were describing, your fear and your judgment are blocking God. They're blocking flow. They're blocking presence. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna screw everything up from that place.
Yeah. It's gonna just take you over. Yeah.
Totally.
I definitely see the importance of that. And so deep breathing sounds like one, doing
It's
things
actually
slow,
slow and light breathing.
slow and
It
light
can be
breathing.
deep, yeah, but breathe in a way where it just feels light and slow. Because deep breathing could get sympathetic. It could be like,
Ah, sure. Like breathwork style. Yeah.
right, that is actually inducing a sympathetic state
Right.
if it's like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
So the light and slow will be parasympathetic.
Light and slow.
Yeah,
Okay. I
yeah,
think, yeah, I guess slowing things down because yeah,
yeah.
I imagine that helps because when you're in that sympathetic, your mind is racing, your heartbeat is going fast, everything is
Hmm.
kind of more intense and fast. So you're kind of
Yeah,
intentionally slowing everything down.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Even when I like move my hands slower, it feels like my talking just naturally goes slower.
It works.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's very interesting.
Oh, by the way, God, what was it? I saw some video a long time ago. They were looking at all these like stud actors in action movies or something, and there was always some scene where like the hero, like he was just walking really slowly, like just in this all this poise and calm, and it's like parasympathetic, of course.
Yeah, I
Exactly what
think
you're
that
saying.
that slow walking is like it's like more self-assured
Yeah,
type of
right? Yeah.
movement. Yeah, similar to how Tony Robbins talks about changing your state. Changing your
Yeah.
state from fearful to more calm.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes so much sense. Okay, I think that's super practical. Anybody listening, yeah, I think they can be very aware when they're in that state. And is there like, I can also see some people kind of overthinking it of, you know, like only wanting to talk when they're in that parasympathetic, but sometimes in the moment, when there's like maybe someone attractive in front of them, their heartbeat's racing
Yeah.
and they're trying to go slow. When do they know that now it's ready? Because they still might even as they're calming down, they still might feel, some fear and some
Hmm.
and some doubts. When do they know it's like, okay, now I'm in that parasympathetic?
Okay. Um, I don't teach this yet, but I think I will soon. You know you're in parasympathetic if the emotion you feel in the moment is love. So if there's anything going on right now, which is not a feeling of love, that is like, for example, right now as I speak to you, there's like 3% fear or something, like low, it's very low. But there's just a teeny little subtle resonance of something that's like fear, maybe like fear of what you think or fear of how's it going to go or what are people going to think, something like that. I don't know. Um, Fear of if you and I are connecting enough or something. Um, and so it's very subtle, right? But if I can check in, okay, there, it's there. So that is a little 3% of me that's in a sympathetic nervous system response right now. And I'm that percentage out of flow. Um, that is only there because there's a wound from my past.
Mm-hmm.
And God knows how many times I felt wounded by experiences where I felt like people didn't like me or judged me or etc. So there's still some of that from my past that apparently I haven't healed. If I'd
Mm-hmm.
healed it, I don't think it would be coming up right now. I would be feeling
Mhm.
100% love right now.
Mm.
And so what I'm just starting to teach my students now is anytime you feel a trigger in the moment, anything that's something other than the emotion of love, you are that percentage in a sympathetic triggered state. It's your
Mm.
younger wounded self who's getting activated in the moment. And the way to heal it is to bring loving awareness to the
Mm.
energy of that trigger in your body.
Mm.
So like, should I keep going with this?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Okay. Okay. So when I check in, where is that little bit of fear? I feel it a little bit behind my eyes, kind of like my ears or something, and something like down around like my sides or my ribs or something. So I'm just gonna close my eyes and I'm gonna bring like a loving attention and awareness to that place, to that energy of the trigger in my body. And I'm looking to make that energy feel seen and heard.
Mm.
Um, and I'm gonna do it until I get bored. I'm gonna guess this takes 15 seconds. When it's a
Mhm.
bigger, stronger feeling, it could take 30 or 60 seconds. When it's a little one, it could be 2 or 3 seconds. I'm gonna try it right now. I'll just see how long it
Yeah.
is until I get bored. There's a moment where you get bored and you like think you need to effort and like try harder. And my belief or suspicion is that you don't have to. Um, you don't have to effort harder. That is simply how much you were supposed to um, heal in that moment. That's like your little portion of healing.
Mm.
If I were to, it's like if I were to eat a piece of steak right now, it might be this big. I don't need to eat 10 pounds of steak right now. It would overwhelm my
Mm.
system. So
Mm.
just to be with it, as long as it's kind of light and easy, that's enough for now. So let me just see. I'm going to try that right now. See how it goes. There's not that much. It was probably only like 4 or 5 seconds right there. But by the end of it, you feel it dissipate. And my
Yeah.
belief is that I just healed a little piece of my wounded self that I carry. And I will be less triggered going forward. So I've been practicing this like a lot the last
Yeah.
couple months, and it
That's
feels
so
like my
interesting. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'll finish real quick, and I want to hear why
Mm.
it's so interesting. I feel like my healing and integration right now is on like supercharge.
Mm.
Yeah, let's see if I turn off the blur if that helps anything. Maybe not. Just trying to avoid the blue light in my room here, so the light's a little crazy.
Okay.
Um, so I'm going through the day noticing all these little ways where I'm not totally in parasympathetic. I'm not coming from a feeling of love. And I'm just healing these triggers 30, 40 times a day, probably. The teacher I've learned this
Mm.
from says it takes 3 years to
Mm.
basically become almost entirely trigger free. Um,
Who's the teacher you follow?
his name is Greg Paul, and he teaches
Okay.
a course on law called The Sovereign's Way. And this thing's my Bible these days. I study this thing for an hour every morning. And it's about how the law and legal titles, et cetera, the whole legal society these days is set up to disempower and disenfranchise you. And he's saying the only real law of the universe is the law of love. And
Mm.
more powerful than, navigating the court system astutely is to navigate your own emotions that are keeping you from showing up from love.
Yeah.
And I've had these old relationships that used to trigger me like crazy, and I've completely turned the page on them. And I'm showing up to those relationships with my family and my ex from love, and they are responding to me so differently. And my sense of like ease and social grace as I move through the world is like going to whole new stratospheres as a result of just noticing where am I not coming from love? Where am I not in parasympathetic right now? And bringing these healing, acknowledging, meditative moments to the triggers inside me. Okay, I'm almost done, I swear. Where the journey takes you is wherever you still have unhealed parts, you are going to be manifesting your wounds and your fears over and over,
Yeah.
right? We keep drawing in the same dynamics over and over until we finally heal the part. But when you heal these pieces, you cannot help but to just manifest your dreams and desires instead. Like
Yeah.
we are manifesting machines.
Mm.
That's right, and I am finding it to be true.
Mm.
So yeah, okay. That
So
I
you're
said a lot.
so you're
What
letting go of these things that you're tied to that are keeping you from being able to manifest things.
and they're they're triggers, they're wounds from our past. We've all got them. Um, and but they're not just triggers, they're magnets.
Mm.
So, I obviously being seen and heard is a major theme in my life, right? That was like one of the core wounds I felt like I grew up with in my family is I didn't feel seen and heard. Well, of course, I managed to manifest romantic partners and friends for a long, long time who would continue to make me not feel seen and heard.
Mm.
Um, and that is just really disappearing from my life now.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's so interesting because that's actually kind of what I've just been obsessed about recently.
really.
So I mostly follow Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if
Hmm.
you've
Yeah, of
read his
course.
books.
Yeah,
Okay. So,
one and a half or maybe two of them.
okay, in his second book, The New Earth, he
Hmm.
goes into more detail about one, he talks about who we truly are is presence, which he says is love.
Hmm.
The quality of presence is loving awareness. And what keeps us from that is what he calls the pain body. All of these
Hmm.
things that we store from the past, traumas, whatever, all these things that we're attached
Sympathetic.
to.
There it is. Yeah,
Exactly,
same thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
sympathetic.
Yeah, yeah.
And all you have to do when the pain body comes up is one, just
Yeah.
not identify with it, just realize, oh, this
Right.
is just a thing from the past, and then put awareness onto it. So
Yeah.
anytime I feel, which I've been doing so much. Like this has kind of been my focus of my life
It's
the
funny.
past weeks. Is anytime
Wow.
this pain body comes up, whether I feel it in
Yeah.
my stomach, my shoulders, wherever, or even because what he says is the way the pain body survives is it
Mm.
needs to feed on some, feed on its negative thoughts. So if it's like an
Hmm.
anxious pain body, it needs to feed on
Mm.
anxious thoughts. If it's
Mm.
like an angry pain body, it needs to feed on angry thoughts. So
Mm.
anytime I even notice like some type of fearful thought or any insecurity or
Yes.
whatever, I immediately
Yeah.
scan my body and like I'm searching like
Yeah.
where's the pain body?
Yeah.
And I always find it. It's somewhere. It's either in my
Yes.
stomach, in my
Yes.
shoulders, sometimes in my jaw, and my cheeks.
Totally.
And I just put my awareness onto it. And the t how long it, sometimes for me, I keep putting it on until it dissolves. So
Exactly.
for me, what I feel is like some kind of for example, if it's in my stomach, I just put my attention there, and there's this kind of burning sensation, which
Hmm.
Eckhart also talks about. It's like
Mm.
you're kind of transmuting
Yeah.
this energy with your
Yeah.
presence, and
Yeah.
eventually it dissolves, and then it turns into this beautiful, loving type of
Yes.
flowing energy,
Yes.
and it strengthens my loving presence.
Oh, goosebumps. And
Yeah,
to yeah, so we are on the exact same path, basically, is what it sounds like.
yeah, it's so
Um,
interesting.
and so what I see it as, just to put one more thing with it, is like you're finding the wounded child who's still inside. And with whatever triggers you, it's that's your wounded child calling out like, "Hey, will you hear me? Will you feel me, please?"
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
especially with my experience having kids now, it's so akin to like, when my son or daughter is really upset and just how do I hold space for them and acknowledge
Yeah.
them. And with my son,
Hmm.
he's still 5, and when I acknowledge him correctly, accurately, he'll process it, and the tears are still wet on his face, but he's ready to play. Like it's past. And so
Hmm.
we're taking these parts of ourselves that weren't parented as lovingly and skillfully as,
Correct.
perhaps could have been. And we're moving from the sympathetic wounded child to the parasympathetic loving adult.
Right.
Every one of those meditations that we're talking about, or moments of presence, is just finding all the parts where we're still a sympathetic triggered little child and replace and just loving it into a parasympathetic adult.
Yeah.
And
It's
we
like
become untriggerable that way.
it's like finding those parts that were just ignored, or
Yeah.
maybe at that time you just couldn't handle the emotion, or for whatever reason you didn't want to
Yeah.
put you didn't it didn't you it wasn't he like felt and seen. at that moment, which is why it got stored. So all it really
Exactly.
needs is to be seen and heard, and
Yeah.
that's just really all you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of my entire belief now about healing because I live in Ubud in Bali.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
a mecca for people that come for healing and self-growth. And
Yeah.
I I used to also be like this where, and I see a lot of people doing this where they go very deeply into the story of why they're fucked up
Mm.
and why they have all these issues.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're so we can kind of can get attached to that story.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't really go, sometimes if the story is some thoughts are coming up, I'll be aware of it, but I don't really think that's even important anymore. I think really
Yeah.
all that's
No,
important
it's
is
not.
just to feel and see the emotion and just to feel it. Just bring awareness to it. You don't need to
Yeah.
dissect it completely and figure out like who is the reason that this happened and like yeah, you don't need to do all these things. You just need to feel it.
Yeah. So there's so much beauty here. So one thing this has opened up for me is apologies.
Mm,
So any moment where I act from something other than love, any moment I'm at all in a sympathetic state in the way I talk to someone, I'm recognizing that I am hurtful when I do that. And
mm-hmm,
so I'll give you an example. I was visiting my parents a couple weeks ago. Historically, I made it through all 5-day visit without getting in a fight with them, which has never happened before. It's thanks to all the awareness we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes. And but there's one moment where my parents, they're watching the news all the time. And I just see the news as a bunch of talking heads putting their
mm.
audience into a trance so they can support the next war. That's my
Oh, totally.
perspective.
Mm-hmm,
And so, but they're watching all the time. And at one point my dad, he's very thick-skinned, not very triggerable. And so I just kind of let it rip with him. I stood in front of the TV. I was like, Dad, this whole thing is fake. Like all they're doing is just talking you into a trance so they can, talk you into the next war. But my mom overheard it and she was offended. And I could tell she was triggered for the next 10 minutes or so. And I went into my bedroom and I said, shoot, I was not totally coming from love there. There was some resentment and frustration in my voice when I said it. Even though I think I'm right about whatever, the news and wars and blah, blah, blah.
mm-hmm,
I realized I got to go apologize to her. So I went back out and I just said, Mom, the way I talked about the news was offensive and I'm sorry. And I can tell it meant so much to her. And so the content of what we were discussing is irrelevant. It doesn't matter who's right. Only thing that mattered is I was not coming from love. For that, I
mm-hmm,
apologize. And there's a healing that just took place between me and Mom. And none of
mm-hmm.
it had anything to do with agreeing about wars or news or
Yeah.
any of it, right? It's all irrelevant.
Mm.
So I'm like just
Beautiful.
noticing all these places I can go back and apologize and actually recognize
Mm.
how fucking hurtful I actually have been. It feels
Mm.
really good and so clean, and I just love it.
Yeah, it also feels like by acknowledging it, it's kind of like you're kind of able to let go of it even more. Whereas I
Totally.
think if you don't acknowledge it or don't say sorry, it's like there's probably some resistance to
Yeah.
to wanting to kind of own it that I was being this way.
Yeah. And so if maybe I'm afraid to feel guilt or shame or whatever, but with the practice you and I are talking about, it's like you find that pain body in the body,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
and and it's gonna dissipate. So I have
Yeah.
such trust and confidence with that process now. One thing I want to share for your audience too is you can use this logic to preemptively dissipate your triggers. So like you can think about situations that are coming up and how talking to this person or going into that situation are likely to trigger you. And that means you've already got the triggers inside you. So
Mm.
you can
Mm-hmm.
put loving awareness on those right now and
Mm.
dissipate those
Yeah.
triggers before you go into the thing in the first place.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and you'll have a radically different experience. It works.
Yeah, completely. Even now when in the past, if I want to maybe approach someone attractive, I'll feel the fear and I'll just kind of do it anyways,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
which, is okay too.
Yeah,
But
it's
now
great.
I really just feel it. I just feel
Yeah.
before I get in the conversation because I know it's some, pain body, something from the
Yeah.
past, some fear, the parasympathetic, and I just feel it and bring my awareness to it and then dissolves. And then from that place, from
Yeah.
that place approach the person.
Yeah.
And one is it just makes the interaction always so much better.
Yeah.
Because I'm coming from that parasympathetic place where I'm just calmer and there's so much more just love flowing when
Yes.
I'm in that state.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of I think seems like in a similar space with you where
Yeah.
anytime now anything happens, it's like nothing possibly can go bad because if
Yeah.
anything pops up, like any pain body, it's like okay, great. Now I get to now it's showing up. It wants to be seen and heard. So now I have the space to bring it to bring my awareness there, and I just know it's gonna heal and I'm gonna grow from
Totally.
it. So from that space, like literally nothing can go wrong. Like
I know.
projection can be a great thing because it's
Uh,
gonna allow
yeah.
me that.
Totally. I was just at the sauna before this and just going between like the cold plunge and the hot
Mm.
saunas. And I'm just noticing my fears around temperature extremes.
Mm.
And I'm
Had
being with
that had that
them.
yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. Crazy. Yeah. And I'm like in there with so much more peace and ease in my body than I was a month ago. It's
Mm.
like, yeah, it's phenomenal.
Oh, I had something with maybe not temperature extremes. I mean, yeah, probably that too. When I'm in the sauna, I definitely notice some tension come up.
Mm.
But yeah, saunas have been actually great for me recently to because I guess it puts you kind of into a sympathetic nervous system state, I imagine, because your heartbeat is racing and you're sweating. So then
Yeah.
those kind of, emotions or whatever from the past are kind of just popping up.
Mm.
So then I use those
Interesting.
as kind of in
Yeah.
the sauna, I'm really just focusing on my body and trying to find those that tension and bring awareness to it. And then also
Yeah.
after I
Yeah.
get out of the sauna, I do the same thing. And then yeah, actually I did notice because I did that I think the first round yesterday, but then the second and third round became much 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 easier, more than
Yeah.
usual. And that's probably
Yes.
because after in the first session I was really just focusing on that whatever that sympathetic nervous system state was, those sensations in my body, and I was
Oof.
able to have it dissolve.
Yeah, amazing. It's so
Yes.
funny. But I'm playing with lights here. I'm I am studying up a whole lot on like blue light and how toxic and bad it is. And like it's
Mm,
getting late here. So I'm in a funny lighting situation. Sorry about that.
all good.
But yeah, no, it's pretty shocking how freaking parallel our paths and journeys are right here.
Yeah, yeah. So I wasn't expecting this. Um, yeah, I'm probably gonna have a bunch of questions. I'll probably message you later about. But yeah, I think this is super helpful, and it sounds like we're both kind of in this process, and I haven't also really introduced this with people in my coaching programs because I feel like
Mm,
I'm still kind of in the middle of it, so I'm still
right.
unsure of how to fit it into the program.
Yeah,
But yeah,
totally.
definitely curious with you how you end up. Did you already start introducing this with your students?
Yeah, I
Good.
have.
Okay.
I have. And because I'm coaching parents as well and how to make their teen feel seen and heard. And
Mhm.
so it's really exciting to me because I think for a lot of these parents, it's going to be a door is going to get opened for them that they weren't expecting, which is why is your teen triggering you right now the way he or she is?
Mhm.
It's going to open up some doors to real personal healing that they didn't even
Wow.
know they were coming for. But I think it'll be in a context where it'll feel safe and good for them. Um, so yeah, a couple of things I want to add to this too. I think when you feel your desires come up, they are asking for meditative presence
Hmm.
in the same way our triggers are asking for meditative presence. And this is basically the manifestation that Joe Dispenza is talking about.
Hmm.
So when you get your vision for what your coaching group can be and what your podcast can be, et cetera, and what partner you want to have, et cetera, it's like when that moment comes up, it's like, don't just jettison that and forget it. Like, no, no, no. Like, if you can, like, just marinate on that one. Find the energy of it in your body
Hmm.
until you get bored.
Interesting.
And you're planting seeds of manifestation when you do that.
Wow,
And
interesting. I never done that.
yeah,
No.
yeah. And I also think God and the universe want to be savored.
Mm,
So you
mm,
just have these moments like I'm sure you must be having these in Ubud where it's just like, where am I living? What fairy tale dreamland is this? This is like
mm,
phenomenal. And
yeah.
just to take a moment and like find the energy of that in your body. And it's like it reminds me of like a little kid going up to God. You know, the way a little kid goes up to the parent, just like, look, God, sadness. Or like, look, God, this sunset.
Mm,
Or look,
mm,
God, like this is what I want to be one day. There's
yeah.
something about that dynamic that's so parallel to me.
Mm. Just like
And
experiencing it all at a deep level.
with that meditative kind of loving attention. And somehow I do feel like it's communing with God.
Yes.
And it strikes me as the healthiest, most potent and powerful thing we could do.
Wow. Yeah, I really resonate with that. Something I've been trying to kind of shift with is really just Eckhart Tolle talks about this is like the most important relationship you have is your relationship with life. You know, is life
Mm,
an obstacle? Is it a
gorgeous.
means to an end? Or do you just love
Right,
life? And I've
right.
been, whenever I notice myself thinking of life as an obstacle, I really trying to change
Mm,
myself to just loving life. And loving life
mm,
means like just loving everything, like loving this tree I'm looking at, loving even the anxiety I'm feeling, just loving like, wow,
mm,
this energy, this intensity,
mm.
loving the whatever emotion I'm feeling, and just yeah, I guess just being open
Yeah.
to everything. And to me, that is definitely like it's kind of celebrating God. It's celebrating life. You know, like look at life, God, what you created, like all these things. It's so beautiful. It's so amazing.
Okay, okay. So have you heard of Father Greg Boyle? He's a
Um,
Catholic priest in LA. They put him in the poorest parish in the 80s in LA in a totally gang-ridden area. And he started something called Homeboy Industries.
okay.
And it's a rehabilitation program for gang members and ex-cons.
Mm,
And
cool.
this guy is the most phenomenal embodiment of a healed, loving heart showing up in service to humanity that I have ever come across. His first book is called Tattoos on the Heart. And my all my work with social skills, the parent coaching, it was coming back to this message that people want to feel seen and heard. And I thought, being seen and heard really was the medicine. Like that was where the transformation was. How effective is your ayahuasca journey going to be? How effective is your Tony Robbins seminar going to be? Is only as effective as you had experiences of feeling seen and heard, and the parts of you that weren't seen and heard got to be seen and heard. Like that was the medicine to me. And
Mm,
now, Father Greg Boyle, he takes it deeper to what you were just talking about, which is cherishing. And he's
mm,
basically what he's giving all these gang members who come from the hardest childhoods you could imagine, where they was really hopeless and bereft of love in so many ways. He is making them feel not just seen, he's making them feel cherished
mm,
as people. And to
yeah.
hear the paths of all these people who come through his program and got to be loved on by him and all his people. Um, it's like that's and then he has these amazing quotes about Jesus and God, etc. And quotes, Pema Chodron, he's agnostic who he quotes, but Sufi poets, and it's just at the end of the day, it's like this God cherishes us and is waiting until we see that so that we can
Mm,
cherish life itself. Like it's in the cherishing
mm,
where like
yeah.
all the goodies, the gold, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, it lies.
Yeah. I think yeah, the cherishing is like it opens us to everything. The more we cherish something, like when you just like loving anything, your body is just open to it. Like your presence is
Right.
just open to it. You're connecting with
So
it.
exactly. And so Boyle knew Cesar Chavez, whose history I don't know that well, but he was Mexican advocate for farmers' rights, etc., maybe in like the 60s or so. And I should study him. I'll bet he's amazing. But Boyle said Chavez was the most phenomenal listener he'd ever experienced.
Mm.
Um, like you were, like you were just, his attention was so completely on you and with you. And think about this. Imagine if the social skills that we teach wasn't just getting people to a place of being able to make others feel seen and heard, but getting us to a place where we can make whomever we speak to feel cherished.
Mm.
Holy
Yeah.
moly.
Mm.
I'm not there yet, but man, do I want to get there. You know who I am there with my kids now that I think of it. And they are the sweetest, most beautiful vibe of my life now that I think of it. Whoa.
Mm. Beautiful.
And to get to a place we can do it. I'm sure it's there waiting for us. It's just further
Yeah.
down the path. But that's how we show up to anyone we speak to, is we're actually
Yeah.
cherishing their presence and their being.
Yeah. How do you think you can like amplify from, being seen and heard to cherishing somebody? What do you think is that distinction?
Perhaps, I mean, one major factor, I'm just going to ramble, is these triggers.
Mm.
Just
Yeah.
keep noticing where I'm still in sympathetic triggers.
All right.
I am absorbing everything from Greg Boyle I possibly can. Like I'm listening to all his podcast interviews, reading all his books, watching the document, like everything, anything.
Mm.
I just want to absorb it all because his lived example is so phenomenal. Um,
Beautiful.
do you have any thoughts about that?
I haven't looked into Greg Boyle, but
Well,
yeah, I could definitely.
how
Oh,
we could get to that
how
place.
to yeah, it seems like one, just being able to dissolve those past
Mm,
things, the
yeah,
sympathetic or the pain bodies. I think naturally
yeah,
is going to create this openness and this
yeah,
loving openness.
yeah.
Um, Something that I've done that, yeah, to me it was similar to what I talked about of just having telling myself like I love life,
Mm,
and just my changing my relationship to I love life. Because I
mm,
remember when 2 days ago I was in ecstatic dance and
mm-hmm,
just feeling I was feeling so much gratitude and just like wow
mm,
I love life and just like looking at the people around me and be like
yeah.
wow look at all these beautiful creations that like life
Uh,
created it because the way I see what God is and life is I just think it's everything like everything here is life.
yeah.
So to love life, it means to love and celebrate everything. So when I was looking at people, I was just like just in kind of in awe of all these people and like all these beautiful people. They're all different. They're all different shapes and colors. They all have different the way I
Mm,
kind of see it, it's like it's kind of God in all these different forms.
yeah.
And so these are all just these beautiful creations. And from that space, I just had so much love for the people around me. Like I was
Mm-hmm,
just celebrating
yeah,
people, like celebrating
yeah.
the aliveness, the this life.
You, you were cherishing.
Yeah, I was cherishing. Yeah, cherishing that. Yeah, everything and the people. Yeah, it's
Well,
everything.
so I want to share this. So, I know we're probably running out of time, but when I was visiting my parents a couple of weeks ago, um, my mom was sitting outside in the morning as the sun rose. Um, and I went just to sit with her. And the moment felt so sweet. And now that I'm in such a different place around triggers, etc., we're not like fighting like we used to. And
Mm.
so it's almost a bit uncomfortable. Um, actually, I'm eating this like very strict diet right now, such that I brought all my own food in going to see them. I told them if you want to go out to a restaurant, go where you want to eat because I'm not going to order anything. They're like, no, we can't do that. That's way too weird. Like, we're not going to go out to a restaurant if you don't order anything. And my shoulder was hurting, so I couldn't play golf with them, which they like to do. And I normally I go canoeing with my mom. We couldn't do that. So everything my mom likes to do with me was off the table, and she freaked out before I went. She wanted to cancel the trip, and I think she actually just felt so profoundly insecure with the fact that all we could effing do is be in each other's presence. Like there's
Mm.
no activities to distract us.
Mm.
And so anyway, I like was able to show up to them from enough love that like they were like, okay, yeah, you should come, even though we can't do all the things we want to do. And so anyway, that morning I go out there and I'm just sitting with her and we're having just such a sweet trip. And I noticed it felt uncomfortable how much energy I felt coming opening up out of my heart and like a little below my rib cage. Like it was so sweet and so vulnerable and so wonderful and it was just love in there and it was uncomfortable.
Mm,
But it's like that first moment in the cold plunge or whatever, right? It's like just relax, you'll get used to this real fast.
mm,
And since I'm having these awakenings, I'm also experiencing it with my kids. Like I took my son, to rock and jump, whatever. He runs around all these trampolines and stuff, and I'm just sitting there watching him. And I'm just feeling all of this love. I'm like there crying, watching him play dodgeball against all these other kids. And it's like just getting used to that much love, getting used
mm.
to being overwhelmed by love, and like knowing to just trust and relax into the pose, as even more is going to come from there too.
Wow, beautiful. And what does that feel like? The when you say you feel this love, like what does that sensation feel like in your body?
Thanks for asking. I guess it's like it's liquidy. There's like a
Liquid,
tealish
yes.
color to it,
Mm,
and it's like kind of bubbling up, kind of somewhere here. It's not my heart up here. It's been in between there, my solar plexus, and it's like yeah, it's liquidy and yeah, yeah.
and it usually stays here. Does it go up, or just it's mostly here?
Yeah, I guess so. Here, and I kind of through my eyes, like I'll just look at my son, I'll just adore him, and it's in a way I didn't used to do before. I'm like really
Mm,
just as I'm with him, just reveling in adoration for him, and that is a
wow,
new way of being for me.
wow,
So,
so beautiful.
and it sounds like it's on the road to cherishing, doesn't it?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Just being fully there, fully like kind of honoring this
Hmm.
moment, being open to it, seeing the beauty in it.
And just his essence, like so
Wow,
in love with his essence. So maybe this is what's opening up
wow.
for me. And yeah, I get to the
Yeah,
place where we can do it with everyone we come across.
wow. That's yeah, so crazy that it's so interesting that we're both kind of thinking of the same things and experiencing these same things. And yeah, the word you said, essence, that's
Mm,
this is also what Eckhart Tolle talks about is when we're really, on the spiritual journey and when we start
mm,
experiencing things from this presence, we can start to just see the essence of things. And the essence
mm,
essence of things, what he calls about is just the essence of God, the essence of the spirit.
mm,
And I remember 2 days ago when I was at that ecstatic dance, it wasn't just like the people I was looking at, it was just like the essence, which to
mm,
me, I think of life as everything, God is everything. So what I was really just looking at is like the essence of everything around me. So even the people and seeing that this is the essence of God and just like cherishing the beauty of that. And for me, that really comes when I'm really deeply in presence. And from that presence, there is this natural kind of love that flows and this openness of just
mm.
full acceptance and just like to honor whatever I'm looking at or being with. And it sounds like that's what you were doing with your son. Sounds like you were I imagine you were very present, just watching him and that there was just this loving awareness that was just really just seeing him.
To be there and being okay with it, You
James,
don't need to distract and run from it.
you cut off a little bit. I think it's my internet.
How about now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Oh yeah. So just being okay with it and letting it be there instead of distracting and running from it. Because as I
Yeah.
felt all that love open up between me and my mom, I could feel how we each had these instincts. It made us uncomfortable, and we kind of wanted to run from it. But
Mm,
I knew better than to do that. And then I
yeah.
got real used to it real quick.
Mm, yeah. I guess that's, with anything new, just got to get used to it. It's probably that, or maybe an old part of yourself that yeah, it just felt uncomfortable because you're not
Yeah,
used to
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Good point.
Great that you
But
sat with it.
yeah,
Wow, so beautiful. I love where this conversation, wasn't
me
expecting
too.
this, but I love how this conversation turned. Yeah,
Me
we
too.
are pretty, I think it's about an hour and a half in. Why don't we just wrap up for the listeners?
Okay.
Um, and I think so I did also I don't know if we have time, maybe we could quickly brush on it. So we
For
we
sure.
went through three parts of your four parts of your
Mm.
how you teach people. Seems like the last one was, I think, was it self-love and
Yes.
getting to understand, is that really understanding yourself?
Are you single, Alex?
Yes.
Have you come across Ken Page and his book Deeper Dating?
No.
Holy moly. Most beautiful journey to self-love I've ever come across.
Well,
Yes. And it rests on the concept of core gifts. Your core gifts are the qualities you have that make you unique. Um, and for some of us, it's our sensitivity. That's definitely one of mine. I would bet it's definitely one of yours too. Um, it could be thoughtfulness. It could be, hard-headedness. It could be being ferociously competitive. It could be an artistic sensibility, how loyal you are, how humble you are. We just have these qualities that are kind of innate to our soul, and we usually don't realize what they are. And we usually kind of unconsciously assume everybody's like this when they're not. So on one hand, you have these unfair expectations for other people, but on another hand, you're massively undervaluing how special what you bring to the table really is.
mm,
And you can feel on a nervous system level when people are truly appreciating you for your core gifts versus not. And Ken's work is to guide you to waste no time on somebody who doesn't instinctively immediately give you that feeling of raw appreciation for your core gifts. The way I teach my students is like, do you eat ice cream, Alex?
yeah, not as much anymore, but I do love ice cream.
So what was your go-to flavor when you went to get ice cream?
Oreo.
Oreo. Nice. So, you go into any ice cream shop and 19 out of 20 people in there are not going to pick Oreo as their go-to
Mm,
flavor, right? But
yep.
when you go get Oreo, does mint chocolate chip need to be taken it personally?
Yeah,
You
no.
know, is it need to be trying to get less minty for next time and hoping Alex will take it? No. Like we know each of those flavors has its own audience for whom that is
Mm,
their jam. And so
mm,
your amalgamation of core gifts is your flavor.
mm,
And Ken's work guided me to see that, as he says, there are people out there who are dying to meet someone who is as much of you as you are. They've been
mm,
waiting for someone like you, who is as much of you as you are, to come along. And so where we have these core gifts, we're a lot. I am really fucking sensitive. I am really fucking honest. And I am really willing to be vulnerable. Like I'm a lot. I am really passionate about growing. Um, And God knows how many times we've received messages from people around us for whom we're not their favorite flavor.
mm,
But we were always getting the message to be less sensitive, be less different,
mm.
be less fierce.
Yeah.
And Ken's message is like, no, 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 you get to be all of you
Mm,
and trust there are people out there, whether it's friends, partner you're going to date, the work you do, who are like dying for someone like you to come along. So that's kind of the core gifts journey in a nutshell.
so beautiful. I'm gonna check that out. And it kind of sounds like it's really learning to cherish yourself. You know, to cherish the
Oh.
beauty that's inside yourself.
I didn't put that together yet. Oh, so true.
Mm,
No wonder it's so good.
I'm gonna check out,
Eh,
yeah, check out Ken
eh,
Page because yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. Go and then I'll tell you.
No, no, I
Okay.
was just gonna say I was gonna check out his book because I'm also in a place where I'm being much more intentional about dating,
Hmm.
and yeah, I think that's something we good to remind myself is, yeah, the person that I'm looking for and I'm wanting these qualities, I'm wanting somebody that is similar to me. That person is also going to be looking for that similar flavor. So not
Right.
needing to feel like I need to be something different. It's just fully embracing and cherishing what I am.
Oh, goosebumps again. By the way, is it still recording even though the otter timed out?
Yep, still recording.
Okay, okay,
Wow.
cool.
Yeah.
Just I was, so yeah, and there's so much to say there. I mean, when I read Ken's voice, I had never read a voice that exuded so much love. And then I listened to his podcast, and I had never heard a voice that exuded so much love. Um, and then in the middle, there's this commercial where he's like the 6 month deeper dating intensive, and he's like, get on a free Zoom call with me to see if you're a fit. I'm like, I could be on a free Zoom call with Ken Page. And so all of a sudden, the next day, there I am on a Zoom with him, and I get on the Zoom with him, and he's looking back at me, and I just start bawling.
Mm.
I cried for like 10 minutes. I couldn't even talk yet. And I just it's immediately felt, do you still have me? Did you lose me?
Yep.
Do
So
you have me now?
yep.
So
You
anyway,
kind of
I
felt a
just
bit there.
immediately, okay. So I get on that Zoom and I just felt so much tender permission from him to be all of who I am. And it was like so cathartic, and all he was just sitting there with his presence and already having this effect on me.
Mm.
So yeah, this is, for kids or people struggling socially, they are putting other people on pedestals, looking up to their core gifts and how special they are, and totally not failing to recognize and cherish all the core gifts they already have inside them.
Yeah.
Oreo's job is not to wish it was more like mint chocolate chip.
Mm.
Oreo's job is just to be all the Oreo that it is.
Yeah.
And so you start arriving at friends, partner, and path and work and study if you're in school, where they love you for who you are. Like, you show up and they're just pumped and excited. You didn't do anything special for it. It's just you who came and they're that
Mm.
excited. And some people have it for their work with their clients. Some people have it with their partners. Some people have their friends. In all three cases, it's a very small percentage of the population. And I suspect the truth is you can have all three.
Yeah. I think that's what true authenticity is. It's just when you be authentic, you will attract, what's aligned for you.
I think it's when it's you are your authentic love. I can
Mm.
be authentic with all my fucking wounds and triggers, and I can alienate the shit out of
Mm.
everybody, right?
Mm.
So I got to heal those triggers inside
Mm.
so that it's
Yep.
my authentic love that comes through.
Mm.
And then
Your
I
authentic
think,
essence.
right, and then we get to arrive at what you just described, right? That's what it seems to me.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, because those fears would still be, if they're still there. I think you can't be even authentic when those fears are
Right.
truly authentic. Your deeper essence of authenticity can't
Exactly.
be there when those fears are overshadowing it.
I've been so
Mm.
authentic for so long, but it was actually alienating so much of the time. Now I can finally see it's because I wasn't coming from a feeling of love in the moment. My triggers were just poisoning and infecting everything. And I was
Mm.
being authentic as shit, but it was still alienating
Yeah.
because my
Mm.
triggers were
Yeah, that
sitting on
makes
top of
sense.
the love. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Well, man, I would still have just with the conversation about cherishing love, this presence, all
Right.
this stuff. I'm sure I'm gonna have many questions later, and I'll probably message you on WhatsApp.
Let's
But
do
just
it.
for our audience, is there any final message you would want to share with the audience? These people that are on their journey to deeper
Mm.
confidence, deeper self-love, deeper connection.
I suspect the core piece of it all is that meditative loving awareness on triggers in the body. I
Mm.
suspect that is worth all the workshops and all the retreats and all the everything. It's just that.
Yeah.
They're only as valuable
Mm.
as they guide you to do that. And it's free and you can do it right now. And it's teacherless. But I guess that does rest on a background understanding of your nervous system, of triggers.
Mm.
Um, but it's not too bad. I mean, maybe we've described all you need in this podcast itself. I really think that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's at the core after all this searching and looking. That seems to be at the core as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's very simple to do,
Mm,
yeah, super simple to do. It's always present right then.
mm,
It's just I guess
true.
getting people to see that it's important and why it's yeah, why it's going to be so helpful. Beautiful.
Yeah. And then I suppose it's irrelevant if they see it or not. All that's relevant is, am I experiencing any trigger around them seeing it or not? And that's for me
Hmm.
to go heal. And it's like, this is the only thing I have to take care of, you know? And then I
Yeah.
show up to them even more lovingly, which produces even more wondrous, like, couldn't believe it results.
Hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
like that, you know, Father Greg Boyle, for example, that's what's happening with what he's doing there.
Mm. Beautiful. Amazing. And if people want to learn more about you, where could they find you? Is there
Yeah.
any offerings
So
you can share?
yeah, on Instagram, I'm at Social Skills for Life. And
Hmm.
also my personal handle is at James T underscore acknowledgements, plural.
James T. Acknowledgements.
James
Okay.
T underscore acknowledgements. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then your
Um,
website is
it is growthwise.us/social skills.
social skills.
Yeah, and so you can do the one-on-one course with me. I also have it in video form at a
Hmm.
more affordable price point, and I do the coaching for parents to make their teen feel seen. Um, and it's been I was doing a lot more of this like 9 months ago. I was coaching couples and how to make their partner feel seen and heard.
Mm.
So yeah,
Beautiful.
that's what I do.
Sounds like you're on such a beautiful journey and doing such meaningful, deep work that's helping so many people. Yes, just love this conversation. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, James, for
me
hopping on.
too. Thank you, man.
Thank you guys so much for sticking with us till the end of this episode. If you liked the episode, please leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to. It makes a huge help for us. So please do that. We have some amazing people already lined up for the next several podcasts. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.